Welcome to the Did You See That Sports Podcast. This is a podcast dedicated to Cleveland sports and those Did You See That moments that you text your buddies about. I'm Colton. This is Ryan. Let's dive right into it. Ryan, we had football finally. You ready to hop into it? You want to just dive in?
Yeah, let's go. Let's go.
All right, let's just dive into it. We finally had some football. We had a bunch of sports, but Ryan, you sent me something today that I think is your Did You See That? Do you want to start with your Did You See That?
I do. I've got two of them. One is football related and one's not. So I'm going to start with the not because we got a lot of football to talk about. So if you don't watch the UFC, there is a guy you must see. So my Did You See That is the UFC fighter from 279, Chris Barnett. This dude is a 300-pound jiu-jitsu master. He is insane. He's got a huge personality. Do yourself a favor, Google it, get the video, and check this dude out. He is literally dancing, getting the crowd like pumped up as he's walking to the ring. He got knocked down a couple times during the fight and then had a come from behind win. And then in the post-match interview, the dude is like Tony Robbins, like changing people's lives with this crazy speech about how great the UFC is, and then walks back to the locker room, grabbing beers out of the fans' hands and chugging them on his way back. The guy's amazing. You have to see him if you haven't seen him yet.
He's a superstar. The video right away, it screams WWE for a UFC fighter. He is the character that they want and need. You know, what a team player.
Yeah, this guy not only, if you didn't know he was a fighter, he's like the happiest man on earth. And then he goes in there and knocks people out and turns back into the happiest guy on earth. It's amazing. It's amazing. Check it out.
Just like destroyed, and he's
smashed.
like, "This is my favorite thing, the best thing in the world." Yeah, definitely look up the video. It's well worth it. You want to do your second one? We can head towards the football side of things.
I do. I think the reason that I love the Did You See That is because we try to find stuff for everybody that maybe you didn't see. We try not to do so much mainstream stuff. And I read this on Sunday morning and about died, and I sent it to you, Colton. So it's a quote from Davis Mills. And for those of you that don't know who Davis Mills is, he's the starting quarterback for the Texans.
For all of the uninitiated.
Yeah, he was quoted as saying, "I haven't seen someone recently with that much juice," referring to Dameon Pierce. "Maybe the last guy I can compare him to is Mark Ingram." And he was trying to be complimentary.
Like last year,
That's not
Mark
a compliment.
Ingram,
That's not a compliment, my dude. So I went back and looked. Mark Ingram only played half the season for the Texans before he was replaced by that young, upstart, athletic guy, Rex Burkhead. So
hey, that's the starting running back for the Texans that you're talking about.
I know. But I was fired up about Dameon Pierce, and then I read that quote, and I've been selling every share I could since then. And after seeing Dameon Pierce in the regular season, I think Davis Mills may have been right. That might be an accurate quote. Yeah, so that's a good one. I just thought it was funny when I read it, and I was like, oh, God, I have to get off of Dameon Pierce as quickly as I can.
Yeah, sometimes the red flags are very obvious, right? And Davis Mills said the quiet part loud, like very, very, very loud. He was like, listen, this dude he's loaded up. He's just as good as the guy that's almost about ready to retire.
Yes. We, the worst team in the NFL, cut.
Yeah, no big deal. Everything's fine. Red flags galore. Well, my Did You See That also was football this week. And it was Brownies related. And we're going to dive into the Brownies first. But for my Did You See That, it was a Nick Chubb video who One, I thought it was surprising because I think it's a sponsored video from what I can tell, but he's narrating it himself, and it's Batman themed. And I mean, it's not a whole lot, but there are entire comic clips like built around Brown's players and Nick Chubb as Batman and him in the dark doing like all sorts of. It's very very cool. It's a fun hype video, especially from like the quiet leader of the Cleveland Browns. Watch him throw that out there prior to a game, and I don't know, it gets everybody juiced a little bit. Ryan, do you get to see that?
I did, and I think, I'm such a sucker to begin with. I hope that the team and the players I root for really feel this way, this stuff that he's saying, because he's like, I'm sick of losing and all this, and I'm sure there's professional athletes that are out there for the money. So when I hear somebody say things like this, it makes me even more fired up. I want to be all in on Nick Chubb, and I am, but if we got to re-sign him to another contract, of course you're like, oh, geez. But when he goes out there and plays as hard as he does all the time, I don't know how you can't root for this dude.
Oh, he's amazing. He is by far my favorite Brown to root for on the offensive side, especially this year. I can't think of anyone else better. And then Myles Garrett on the other side, I think they have such a fun like similarity almost in them being not normal leadership styles for an NFL team. They're not loud guys, but they're like powerful on both sides of the ball.
Yeah.
So powerful on both sides of the ball. We saw a little bit on Sunday. Did you get to watch the entire game? What was your setup for Sunday going in? Because I had not a great one. So how were things for you?
Yeah, so this is the first time I've ever had NFL Sunday ticket. So somehow I got looped in since went back to school, and I got to get Sunday ticket for my college ID, which was great. So I've never had that before. So we had the big screen set up, multiple games on, got to watch the Brownies, got to watch a whole bunch of stuff. So I was loving life. It was a great Sunday.
Nice. All the multiple screen setup. I didn't get to do that. I actually ventured to Southern Ohio, and I ended up out of Browns territory altogether. So I was full on, definitely not using a different streaming service through my phone, making best attempts to watch. I got to watch a lot of it, actually. And then Red Zone was on the television. I streamed that through. So all the main points were coming through to me, and then I watched it back a couple times, including the game-winning kick, which I may have watched 150 times in a row. I don't know. It was it's so fun. King CADE York, he's been given to us. He's a reincarnate of a Phil Dawson. He's our guy. Maybe even better than Phil. How blasphemous of me to say. Better than Phil.
Yeah, that might be a little early. I'm
getting the jersey.
Yeah, I feel you. I told you, we said this a couple podcasts ago, we were going to be all in on him. So,
more in now than
I went back. I went back and took some notes. There were 10 kicks that were potential game winners in week 1. 10 of them. Only 2 of them were made, and to have the Browns have one of those 2, that's amazing. I mean, no shame. I'm live texting Colton, telling him how much the Browns suck, and I can't believe we blew this game, and blah, blah, blah. And my kids are telling me, like, hey, we're going to get in the field goal range. I'm like, there's not enough time. They're just not going to get that far. And we got some lucky calls to make it happen. But to have someone like that can put the ball through from anywhere on our side of the field, it's nice to have. It's a good feeling. I don't care if they took him in the 4th round, 3rd round, 2nd round. That's something you can't replace, and you can have him for 10 years.
Yeah, just keep throwing him out there. I mean, King CADE York aside, it was a fun game. I mean, the Browns look like a competent football team. Really, I think it looks reminiscent of the Colts team that was led by Brissett, especially with the running backs kind of having to lead the way. Not as much tight end involvement, but the defense looked pretty good except for the couple plays where they just fell off a cliff. There was a couple broken coverages where it was just bomb play after bomb play. Other than that, like situationally and the D-line, I thought played very well.
Yeah. Yeah, I've never been so happy to watch Baker Mayfield throw tip passes. So I'm glad he didn't get that part of his game fixed. But yeah, I thought they were good, and I actually thought Miles should have had a third sack. He
I thought
tackled
so too.
Baker behind the line
Early in the game, right?
But he was still tackled behind the line. So I'm not sure why he didn't get that third sack. But I mean, those back-to-back pressures near the end were really big for Miles on his 2 sacks, and then. I loved how the defense played. I thought they played great. Now those 2 big plays, that was, obviously it's going to fall on somebody. I didn't see the all 22 yet, but it looks like there was just miscommunication in the secondary, or they just never thought Baker could throw it that far.
The
offense.
No way you can get it out here.
Yeah, the offense. I was pleasantly surprised with how accurate Jacoby was, and he had some zip on the ball. I liked how much DPJ was involved. I think he had 11 targets. So, I mean, they were spreading it around, and it just wasn't all backs and tight ends. They were moving it. They were throwing the ball outside the hash marks, and I was impressed. Much better than I was expecting, and it definitely gave me hope. I had written them off as no way they could make the playoffs, and I know we've got a long road to go, but I could see them going 3-1 or 4-0 in these first 4 games where we have a very soft schedule.
Yeah, I think, the competency level seems high, right? Like if you can just float the boat with the guys that are able to play, it's not a bad team. Now, there's some guys like Schwartzy has a little bit of the case of the dropsies still.
Yeah.
That's not a good sign from a guy that's supposed to be a main piece of the offense by now. DPJ, for being such a late pick, he really looks good.
Yeah.
And then we've got Njoku, who didn't get much play at all, other than blocking.
I don't understand
that. He got praised in the press conference today. And like you said, Jacoby, a little bit of zip on the ball. He a little extra bonus. Did you see that? I didn't get to send this over to Ryan before the pod, but did you see his press conference at all after the game?
No.
He got a little bit emotional when they asked him about the game, and he was just kind of talking, and it was out of nowhere. But he was talking about how grateful he is to have the opportunity to start in this league and lead a team. He's like, there's nothing like it, and I never thought I'd get to do it again. And he just was very and I'm a sap like Ryan when it comes to that stuff. I want it to be real, and it feels real. And the best teams feel the most real, I think, in those sort of moments. So he could do it. He can lead this team. It seems like he's doing an okay job so far.
Yeah, on offense, the only 2 notes I had was Njoku seemed to fall off the plan. I don't know if that was by design or if he just wasn't open. We'll have to see next week when we play the Jets. But the MVP to me is the offensive line. 1 pressure the entire game. That was it. And over 5.5 yards per carry for the running backs. I mean, you do that in the NFL, and we're going to be just fine. I'll take my chances with the defense we have and no pressure on the quarterback and 5 yards a carry. Yep, I'm good.
Stats galore for the running backs too. What a game for those.
Yeah.
Great game, and that's blueprint game for us. Really, if we're going to win the next couple games, that's exactly how it's going to have to go for us to be able to win those games. And we don't have to be amazing. We just can't be bad.
Yeah, I just that style of play, the only thing that makes me nervous is that throughout the whole game I'm saying we should be up more. It feels like we've dominated this game, and we should be up more than this. And I know we go for it on 4th down a lot, and I love it. I like when he does it, but sometimes it's like, gosh, I'd love to have those 3 points that we gave up.
Yeah, it's it's terrifying, especially later on. We're looking at the score, and it feels like it's a problem that in the first game here, we at least got back to field goal range. We won the game, but it felt like a continuation of last season where we can't slam the door. We can get up. We can be in a pressure position, and we've got the running game to put it away, but we just can't quite put it away, and we let them back in. They were going to win this game. Our rookie kicker hit a 58-yard field goal with time running out to win a game, or we would have lost. And hey, that's all that matters. But at the end of the day, it's scary. We could have very easily been on the other side of this. Baker Mayfield be selling T-shirts, 1-0.
Yep, that's 100% right. Yeah. So, how do you feel coming out of this game, and where do you kind of see us? I mean, we get the Jets with no starting quarterback. We get Pittsburgh, who seems to be really dinged up, and then we get the Falcons, who has the coach yelling at the media already.
Out of the three that you just named, the Falcons, for me, in our last episode, picking them to be one of the worst teams in the NFL, if not the worst, they seem the scariest coming out of week one because I don't know what they are at all. I can't figure out if that division is just so god-awful that all of those teams look just terrible. I can't tell which one's good or bad, or if they're all just different variations of bad. But they seem to have some pop. The Jets, a couple years too late on that one for the starting QB there. But I don't know. What do you think? Where are we going to be in week 4? What's our record? End of week 4.
Yeah, I think we're 4-0. I think we have enough talent to pull it off 4-0. And then it gets really scary. I think we actually drop down to about 5-6 before we get Watson back, and then it's like, okay, man, that's a lot of losses in a row or bunched together. Is Watson enough with the schedule easing up to kind of get back on track and get us to double-digit wins? Because that's where you're going to have to be. I mean, the West has 4 great teams, but they're not going to have 3 teams that are going to be 12-5. They're all going to beat up on each other. They're all going to have losses. So we're going to have a chance to get the wild card, but if we lose a couple of these early games, we're going to be out of it. We have to get to 4-0, and because we're going to get beat up there in the middle.
So, yeah, the middle is definitely going to be the hot part of our schedule. The Ravens looked okay week 1 here. Yeah. They were fine. They haven't shown me anything amazing yet. The Steelers, I watched that almost entire game with the Bengals because that's the territory that I was living in Sunday. The Bengals looked rough, and they still were going to win that game. I'm not impressed by the Steelers at all. The Bengals turned it over. Joe Burrow turned it over 5 times, and they won the game with no time left and had a block kick. So it's a little bit rough if you're a Steelers fan because you get to start 1-0, but I think that's as good as it gets for you.
Yeah, good for them. I hope it's awful the rest of the year. I hope they lose every game.
I think they very well might.
Okay, so we're kind of going into the rest of the NFL.
Yeah.
What were your week 1 surprises? What did you kind of see that you were like, whoa, what's going on here?
So we had a little bit of like a bad teams who won or good teams who lost thing going here, right? And
okay, you want to start there?
Yeah, I want to jump into that a little bit because I was looking at this, and I thought it was an interesting concept. The bad teams that won, I thought there were 3 that jumped out to me. The Commanders were the first one. I think that game in general was weird. At one point, the kicker was winning the game by himself. It was 15-14, and he had 5 field goals. It just kept coming onto red zone, and I wasn't even sure exactly how anything was happening as far as that went. But that was my first one that jumped out. I don't think the Jaguars are a good team. But
you can't talk about the Commanders.
No.
You can't talk about the Commanders without your Carson Wentz hot take pick from just a week or 2 ago.
It's great.
Where you said they were going to win the division, and he's going to be awesome. And he threw for 4 touchdowns.
They're bad. And I'm going to be right, but they're bad. They may win games.
They can be both, I guess.
They can be both. I mean, that's basically Carson Wentz's entire MO, his entire career. Yeah. We're going to be good, but I'm going to be bad. And one of his teams doing that won a Super Bowl when they got him out of the way. When he got himself out of the way. And the Colts almost tried to win a playoff game, but they couldn't get him off the field. So,
and they tried.
They tried. This is going to be the moment for them. The second one I had was the Saints. The Saints being the Falcons by 1 was a slugfest, like we were talking about a second ago. I think that one was a turds galore game. Man, there's just neither one of those teams wanted to win. Not as bad as Colts Texans because that was legitimately neither team wanted to win. But the Saints beating the Falcons by 1, you can chalk that up to who knows what that entire division is. Did you get to see any of that game?
I did. I was lucky enough to have both those games on. Got to watch both of them. So, yeah, it was a weird up and down, back and forth, both of those games. So, the teams that I had, and I know I'm just gonna ride this thing till I die, but the Bucs are not a good team. I still don't care. They beat the Cowboys, who did not look good. Godwin got hurt. They lost another offensive lineman, and there's going to be teams that are going to figure this out, that Brady is going to check everything down and do these quick passes, and they're going to give him the Ben Roethlisberger treatment, and they're going to stack the box, and they're going to put corners right on top of these guys, and they're going to say, you're going to eat this blitz up the middle, or you're going to throw it up, and we're going to see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what it's going to be. And Julio Jones looked great.
Julio season.
But let's see how his body reacts after 3 or 4 weeks. Evans was still limping around even though he had a touchdown. Godwin got hurt. Fournette did look good even though I hate him. But if you're hanging your head on Fournette being the leader of the team because they don't have enough other weapons, it's going to be a mess. I just think people are like, oh, Brady's there and they won and everything's fixed. No, that's not what it is.
No, I'm with you. I thought that team looked bad. They did get a win against another team that looked terrible, even with Dak Prescott on the field. And then Dak getting hurt was just the cherry on top of this terrible start to a season for the Cowboys. So kind of a double dip there. Both of those teams that were supposed to look good looked pretty rough, but one of them left with the W.
Yeah, the other team I had that won that was I still think it's a bad team is Pittsburgh. That was just a kind of a fluky game. Whenever you got these division rivals, I think everybody plays each other a little bit tougher. They know each other pretty well, and clearly the Bengals didn't play well, but it didn't help. So, who was the team that lost? That's actually a good team.
Yeah, I had the inverse, like you were talking about there. The Bengals in that game with the Steelers. I think that they were the better team on the field most all of the day, but sometimes a couple plays break one way or the other, and the score doesn't reflect that. I mean they won that game down to special teams. They had a play with no time left where they scored. It was pretty amazing, and that's on top of all the turnovers. So the Bengals, I think, are a team to not be messed with. Who did you have that was kind of a good team?
That's the team I have. Yeah. Burrow looked rough, and I think he plays better than that. You had Higgins get hurt in the middle of the game, so I think that changed some of their philosophy on what they wanted to do.
He got popped.
So I wouldn't worry about the Bengals. I think that was just one of those weird games. They don't look like they were prepared, and I don't like their coach. I think their coach is trash McStuffins. I just don't think he has. With all those pieces they have, they should be running 60-plus plays a week. They're so slow. They drag every play out except for the punt, which they should have at the end of the game in overtime. I don't know why they kicked it with 20 seconds left on the clock. That just makes no sense. So I have worries about the coach, but that's a team that's going to get some wins.
Yeah, I think they are. I had a couple more. I had the Green Bay Packers. I think the Vikings looked really good. I think that it's similar to the Thursday night game where the Rams got just ran over by a team that's clicking early. And the Packers got ran over. Ayahuasca Aaron, as he's lovingly referred to in one of our fantasy leagues, he is not looking great early, but he's playing with a bunch of guys he's never played with before. Let's give him a week or two to settle in. I think that it's going to take just a second, but he RELAX everybody. Just
I didn't
in control.
I didn't think he played poorly. Did you think he played poorly?
No, I think that's what I'm saying. Some of his weapons that just aren't there yet. He had a couple touchdown passes dropped. It's not all him, but the team's got to gel. Give it some time.
Yeah, the only red flag I had for Rodgers was he held on to the ball a lot.
He took it some hits too.
Yeah, and it's not because was scrambling, because he's not that guy anymore like he used to be, where he could get out of the pocket, almost like Mahomes. Mahomes, you don't think of as a scrambler, but he really does pick up quite a few first downs when he's in trouble. That used to be Rodgers, and he's not that guy anymore. But when he got out of the pocket, he had opportunity to throw the ball away, and he just kept eating the ball and getting smashed. And I just didn't understand that piece. And then I hated the play calling for the Packers. Aaron Jones got 9 touches. Like, you've got people that can, put him in the slot, put him on the outside. He's played on the outside before. I think there was just more opportunity for them, and I wonder if that Christian Watson drop to begin the game, if that's a catch, how different is that game?
Right. Yeah. Sliding doors moment where, you have a big play right out of the gate, especially a rookie. Right? Get a guy hot. The last one I was kind of looking at was the Raiders. That game with the Chargers, it was a close game. They lost. That Raiders team might be good. They just might be. They have some pieces. It's fun to watch. And if Derek Carr can actually be a quarterback, that the machine might run. So that was my last one of a good team that lost this week.
Yeah, I can't tell. I don't want to call the Raiders a good team yet. I want to see them a little bit more.
It didn't feel good to say.
Yeah, they had some weird turnovers.
I have a dot in the doc. Okay, everybody. I have dot Raiders question mark. That was not confident, but
okay. Here's my surprising teams that I don't know if there's going to be any carryover. Were you surprised the Patriots, coming off of an off season with a whole off season to prepare, couldn't figure out Tua and Daniel's system here?
It sounds like, so the reports coming out of camp sounded like it was going to look like it looked. And I think that was defense, surprising.
But the whole camp, they've been saying how great the defense has been. Maybe it's because they're playing the offense, but
it's probably what it was, what it seemed like.
The defense didn't look good.
They were like, it's a shit show here. And it seemed shit showy. It looked like it. It didn't feel good.
I was just surprised to see Belichick team look unprepared after an offseason. Yeah. Like, this is week 1. And I know they are traditionally one of those teams that continues to get better throughout the year, and they don't hit their stride till later. I was surprised. 49ers, I don't know what to do with them, with the weather. Trey Lance did not.
You got to throw that game out. That's a weird one.
Yeah, that's what I think too. I was surprised at how well the Texans played. They seemed very well-rounded. I know the Colts underplayed, it played down to the level, but their defense made some moves, made some plays when they needed to, and they spread the ball around a little bit. They made some plays when they had to, so I was surprised by the Texans. But my biggest one was the Vikings. I thought the Vikings were going to be good. I picked them to win the division, but they made it look so easy. That is an example of the coach coming in and having an immediate impact on his team. Jefferson looked like he was wide open on every play, like someone forgot to cover him. So the scheme and getting him to move around, those are things that I'm jealous of. I was jealous of when we had OBJ and we could never find a way to get him open. And you see these other teams like Cooper Kupp and Jefferson and Devontae Adams just standing in the middle of nowhere catching all these balls. So I think the Vikings have staying power, and I think they had a really good start.
The Vikings looked amazing. That offense was firing on all cylinders, making Kirk Cousins look good, but Justin Jefferson kind of backed up all the talk. He had a big game going during the offseason here, saying, "I'm the best receiver in the league you're going to see," and he came out and put on a show, was breaking some records and stuff. So it was a real good look. I had a couple in a different direction. The Cardinals looking just absolutely terrible, which I don't know if surprising is the right word, but it was sad. Like there was no fight out of that Cardinals team at all. They got beat down early and it was over. The red zone channel kept flipping back to it because out of necessity when they were in the red zone, which happened to be a lot. They were getting scored on a ton. But that team looked completely beat down, similar to what was going on with the Cowboys prior to Dak going out, where just nothing was clicking. the offenses could not get rolling at all.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. I didn't like the Cardinals coming into the season. Their defense is not good. They had one of the worst secondaries coming into the year, and they have no pass rush. Watt's out, and they lost Chandler. So I didn't expect much from them, especially with the injuries, the suspensions, all that they have going on. It just didn't seem like a good thing. And then we all know how well Andy Reid's teams come out in week one. They traditionally put up 30-plus points and are juggernauts. So not surprised. And I just don't think that's a good football team.
Yeah. Yeah, and I agree. It's probably not a good football team. I think the lack of offense, except for garbage time, was a little surprising for them supposedly being, a high fire-powered offense. Them and the Cowboys both are supposed to be two of the high-flying offenses of the NFL. And up until the end, garbage time style for the Cardinals, they literally had scored only 7. And the Cowboys scored 3 altogether. Not saying the Bucks weren't far behind them. They're supposed to be a high-flying offense as well, and they look like trash too. So there was a bunch of question marks still out there. Are they going to get it together, or is that what the Cardinals are? I think that's my surprise, I guess.
Yeah. I wanted to touch on, did you have any players that jumped out to you that you were like, wow, I wasn't expecting that one way or the other? Because I got some notes on that.
Yeah, throw one out there.
So my surprise was I can't remember any week in the NFL, let alone week one, where the teams relied on their stars more than this week. Mixon, 34 touches. Jamar Chase, 16 targets, 10 catches. Barkley, 25 touches. Jefferson, 11 targets, 9 catches. Pittman, 13 targets, 9 catches. Taylor, 38 touches.
Jeez.
Adams, 17 targets, 10 receptions. A.J. Brown, 13 targets, 10 catches. Mahomes threw the ball 39 times with 5 TDs. And then Josh Allen, between running and completions, 37. So everybody just kind of yoked up onto their studs and said, like, let's make this happen. And I guess after going through all those, my big surprise was, where was McCaffrey?
Right. Gone. Just gone altogether. I mean, Thursday night, you go back, you've got Cooper Kupp 13 for 128. You've got Stephon Diggs 8 for 122. And then, like you said, where is CMC? And I think I know what it is. It's Baker. I think it's Baker Mayfield. I think that
I don't know. Big JOK is good. He's the perfect guy against a CMC, a Najee Harris. He's that guy that can play the coverage, but he's not a CMC stopper. That dude is too talented. His biggest play was like that muff snap where he picked it up and ran it for like 17
Makes
yards.
You think they should almost direct snap, multiple times a game because of how successful that was. I don't think the offense was the Baker offense does not seem like it is the same offense they were trying to run last year where CMC was pretty good until he got hurt. It's different. Baker can push the ball down the field a little bit more, so they're attempting to do that. Now, if he can connect, I think CMC is going to be fine. The plays are going to continue to come. He's going to get goal line work, and he scored on the goal line. Or at least he dove over the line at one point. But he's going to get that work if Baker's not getting his ball tipped and they're turning it over and the offense is fumbling. And, I'm not sure that they can sustain those drives. So we'll see if that offense can keep it together. If they do, CMC's fine. He'll get his play, but not number one fantasy draft pick play. I think that's the biggest red flag coming out of week one, right? He's not going to produce on value, or at least it doesn't seem like it.
I don't know. I think at some point they're going to have to just feed him the ball. I mean, because that's where he's always been great at. Baker just never really checks down. He just is not a big underneath target guy. Even when he had Hunt getting a lot of touches, those were designed routes. It wasn't a, hey, I'm going to chip block and stand out here in the flat. So I don't know. We'll be interested. Have you seen a week where there were so many just studs? Like, there's always going to be 4 or 5 guys that get 10 catches. But these are like the A++ guys. They went
like
into
not
this
week
game.
one. right? Like I just don't think week 1 for sure. This feels very much almost like a fantasy playoffs week where like the studs were showing out, and you might have a guy that drops 40 points in a fantasy week like a Justin Jefferson did this week. That's what it felt like more than anything. The studs were showing out early, and some people just didn't.
And they did great.
Well, building up a fantasy team, we were talking a little bit about team building. Do you wanna go ahead and dive into? You teased this on the last pod. I'll let you tell the people what we're doing.
Yeah, I wanted to talk a little bit about it because we got the Lamar Jackson contract coming up. We saw what the Watson contract did with guaranteed money. So I've been trying to think about, hey, what is a good zag to how all these NFL teams are building, because everybody's getting you're searching for a quarterback. Once you get them, even if they're halfway decent, you're locking them up as tight as you can and keeping them. And we all know if you don't have one of these top tier guys, then you just can't win the game. And that's the reason the Browns went after Watson. We had somebody that was good in Baker, who had his gaps, but just still had a lot of talent, but was just never going to be able to do it. So I looked through the last 7-year Super Bowls. That's 14 quarterbacks. Okay. How many of those 14 quarterbacks were in the top 10 paid at the position?
7.
1. So in the modern day, this last 7 years, 1. We had Peyton Manning that was in the top 10 paid quarterbacks that made it to Super Bowl, and he won. But the other 13 quarterbacks were not in the top 10 when it came to their top position. So that led me to believe, and especially looking at Lamar Jackson, is why not have a football team and a system created around an athletic quarterback who can throw as needed, accuracy, but just maybe not the greatest thrower. He's not going to be Drew Brees or Mahomes or any of those, but a little bit more like a Jalen Hurts, probably a good example.
Trey Lance bet.
I think there are a lot more Jalen Hurtses out there in college and high school, the way that it's being played right now, than there are Drew Breeses and Peyton Mannings that can throw the ball with accuracy and pinpoint precision. And I think you just build a system around that. And then it's kind of what Chip Kelly was starting to do in Philadelphia, is that you've got 2, 3, or 4 quarterbacks that fit a system, not so much the talent, and then you just run them out there. You never have to pay them. If they get hurt running the ball, you've got 2 or 3 guys that are very similar in skill level that can run the same offense. And that's how you build it. And you use that money in these other positions. On those 14 teams in the last 7 years in the Super Bowl, you've got each of them had a top paid cornerback in the top 3 cornerbacks. Each team had a top paid pass rusher in the top 3, and each team had an offensive lineman in the top 3. So you can divert more funds to that piece of the puzzle, and maybe you get 2 of those. Maybe you get an end guy and a linebacker that rushes the passer. Maybe you've got both tackles. But I think that's kind of the way that you could zag right now. And Huntley is the perfect example of Jackson. I don't think there was much of a fall off in Baltimore when Lamar got hurt. That dude was out there. He was doing good.
Yeah, I mean, he was doing fine.
He's not Lamar Jackson. He's not Lamar
Jackson. He's not Lamar Jackson, the MVP, Lamar Jackson. But there is something to be said about, building the system and not building the system around a player, specifically. It's more of like a belief in how to play and getting players that can do that, right? When you were laying this out, I was looking into it a little bit too, and I thought it was interesting that you were looking at the Super Bowls. So I went back, and you pulled 7 years, but I just went ahead and pulled 6 just to see, who the quarterbacks were. And so I'm going to read through them real quick from 17 on. And we had Matt Ryan, Tom Brady, Nick Foles, Tom Brady, Jared Goff, Tom Brady, Mahomes, Jimmy G, Mahomes, Tom Brady, and then Burrow and Stafford. The winners of those in order to Brady, Foles, Brady, Mahomes, Brady, Stafford. So although I agree with your premise, right, that you should build a team, and it very well should be around not paying a quarterback the most in the league. I don't think you can win a Super Bowl or possibly even make it to a Super Bowl based on, our most recent results without having the franchise guy where you did pay him. Now, Brady's taken discounts, but in general, these are guys that got locked in. They are the dude that you as a franchise chose to be the guy. And then they made it to the Super Bowl based off of that. The only, real outlier here is Nick Foles, and then Jared Goff. System quarterbacks where they made it through, and then Jimmy G, which is the most debatable, I think, of the three, where Jimmy G could very well have been seen as just a higher end QB up until injuries and things blew him apart. Who knows what he turned into after that.
Yeah, part of my discussion is about not only, having some more money to kind of lay around in some other positions to give you some depth, but mine is more about its insurance from injury. And Foles is the perfect example, right? Because if Brady goes down in any of those 3 years he wins the Super Bowl, his team is not winning the Super Bowl, right? But if there was a running, more athletic quarterback who goes down and you've got another guy behind him who maybe is not as accurate, you have a much better chance to keep where you're at, your level of play, as opposed to trying to grab. If you drop down on a traditional pocket, if Mahomes goes down, the Chiefs are not going to Super Bowl. Chad Henne is not going in there and he's just not that skilled. So I think it's easier to find replacement talent as an athletic quarterback who can throw when needed than it is to find one of these great pocket passers. And the drop-off is so great. If you're hurt, you're done.
Right.
Look at the Cowboys. The Cowboys are going to be done.
It's over. Yeah, and like Cooper Rush, right? They bring him in. I think one of the better examples of this last 7 that we looked at there, of what you're talking about, is the Mahomes Jimmy G year. Especially when Mahomes, prior to massive contract, was that quarterback. Cheap guy who, without having the backup easily in place, he was the cheaper guy where you could devote money to other parts of the field and other places. So I think that's one of the better recent examples. And then Burrow, obviously, as well this past year, being able to have a team around you, that really can cement it in when you can pay for some other positions.
Well, yeah, that's why I thought about this, is because, your best window opportunity is those first 5 years where you have a guy on a rookie deal. Mm-hmm. So what if you never have to sign someone to that next deal? Because people are getting married to these quarterbacks, even if they're not great. Like Justin Fields, if he has a good year this year, they're going to sign him up, even though we know he might not be the dude. He's going to get a contract.
Kyler Murray.
Yeah, same thing. Yeah. This is going to be a way that, why do you need to give this guy another? I could see the quarterback position where you could treat it a little bit more like a running back now than traditional quarterbacks, and you're just never tied to somebody. You've got a little bit more flexibility, and it's never going to work. Nobody's going to zag this way, but I'm just saying it's a thought exercise. I think it's worth looking at, and I'm sure somebody's working on it somewhere. Some analytic nerd is going through it right now.
Yeah, it's probably. Honestly, it seems a lot like what is actively going on with the Baltimore Ravens and kind of like how that team is constructed. It's built to plug and play different pieces that are similar, top down, all the way through the roster.
Yeah, and one of the nicest things that they've done is they realize who they are, and it's like, who's your backup? Oh, RG3. Who's your backup? Oh, Tyler Huntley. Yep. Okay, that makes sense, because when they had Trey McSorley, that had made no sense, right? They had to literally, because he can't do the things Lamar can. Nobody can do the things Lamar can, but at least replicate some of it.
Yep, I'm with you. No, I like the exercise. I think it's interesting to see how NFL teams are built and how, especially in the last, 5 to 10 years, how differently people are trying to construct NFL teams based on, paying different guys or seeing immediate struggles from guys that got paid the season before and making adjustments much quicker than they used to. It might have taken 5 to 10 years for GMs to make changes on different contracts. It's taking one contract now before people learn lessons. So things are changing quickly all the time.
Agreed.
What do we got left?
I know you want to talk some baseball. Do you want to go through some NFL coaching, or do you want to do some baseball? What do you want to do?
Let's do the NFL coaching because this has been on our docket for a little bit now, and I think it's an interesting one. We can kind of hit pretty quick. So Ryan puts this randomly.
I want to do.
Doc.
Hold up.
Go ahead.
Hold up. I want to do. Who do you think's going to get fired first before we get into my question?
Okay. Do you want to throw yours out there and I'll piggyback? Because I'm fine.
Yeah. Give me Matt Rule. Matt Rule's going to be the first coach fired. David Tepper is not going to hold on to this dude much longer. If they continue to lose games like to the Browns, at home, he does not have the patience for this guy, and he's going to boot him out of there.
It might be Matt. He very well might go. I was looking down through first coach fired, and up until the broken thumb, I really thought it could be McCarthy. I know that Jerry Jones, he's running out of time, man. That's the honest truth about Jerry Jones. This guy's patience is running thin because he can't wait seasons. But with the injury, it makes it hard to fire the head coach when they're doing poorly and Cooper Rush is your quarterback. So I think I'm with you. I think that you're probably in the right boat. Everybody else is going to have some more time, at least for a little bit. On these bad teams, they're all new coaches anyway, so they have a little bit of a life raft for a little while. Who else is even in the hot seat?
I don't know. I mean, people keep saying McCarthy, but like you said, it just doesn't make sense. If the team is bad, if you fire him, what's it change? It doesn't change anything.
Can't help.
You think Peyton wants to hop in there 9 games in and be like, hey, let me take over this shit show and not have any time to prepare? I mean, everybody's going to want to take over in the offseason. I don't see what the benefit would be to get rid of him.
Hot take, Kyle Shanahan. Watch it. What if
I thought about that too?
Bad year. What if it's bad year?
He's had bad years before.
I know. Isn't there like a whole thing about his like the lore of Kyle Shanahan is much more powerful than his actual statistics? Isn't that a thing?
The only thing that could end up biting Shanahan, and I haven't seen how this was reported, but who stood on a table for Trey Lance? Was it Lynch or was it Shanahan?
And if it's both, they're going off the bridge together because this is not.
Yeah, because if somebody had to have been in that room and said, "This is the dude for us. Let's trade all these picks," not knowing who was going to even be left, and then to pull the trigger on him, if he doesn't work out and Shanahan can't work his magic on him, then somebody's going to eat that bullet, especially if they're bad.
That and was it even Lance? That's the craziest part of how all of that went down.
Yeah, it should have never been
initially, traded. It was an early trade, and then it was weeks. Who is it? We don't even know yet. What a weird... And look, that might go down as one of the worst trades in NFL history, too. Based on everything that's happened after that and the draft capital that went into it, it might cost multiple jobs, starting first-round draft picks. It's all sorts of things. It's a big... sliding doors moment for the NFL. We'll see what happens years to come here.
Yeah, and we don't advocate for anyone to be fired, just for the record. But that's just our prediction. Okay, so I had put this question up for us to kind of talk about a few weeks ago, but we just never got to it. Who is the worst coach to get more than one job?
I love this. I saw it in the doc, and I was just reading through. The first one in the list is Gase, which is just the second time around. Gase was one of the more painful coaching experiences I can remember.
The first one was bad.
They were both bad, and then it wouldn't die. The second time around, it was like, come on, guy, you got to get him out of there. He's got to go, and they just wouldn't. They wouldn't send him away. The other ones hit a little more at home here in your list. Yeah. You've got your Hugh Jackson, Romeo Crennel, Mangini, and it's just a who's who of Brown's sadness there.
I hated putting Mangini on that list because I love Mangini. I loved when he was our coach. I had no problem with him. I love him as a commentator. I am all about that dude. I would get a Mangini jersey. I love him, but he's got to be on the list.
I mean, it didn't go well. Romeo Crennel, he did okay, right? Didn't he have some moments? Is he bad twice? He gets a bad twice token.
Well,
Hugh Jackson gets like an ultimate bad.
Yeah, he was bad in Cleveland. Then he was bad in Texas, right?
Well, doesn't he get like a third run where he was cleaned up for the Kansas City thing? Didn't they put him in, gave him like a token and put a crown on him?
Was that before Herm or after Herm?
I don't remember. He got cleaned up a little. I threw some fun ones in here too with a could it be, because I think this year we've got a whole pile of them of the could it be bad for a second time sort of deal. We've got McDaniels, we've got Lovie Smith, we've got Dennis Allen, and by the end of the season, and McCarthy this year, but I think he gets a little halo over him because it's just going to be really difficult to fire a guy without his quarterback. But with any of
he has not been good this go around. He has not been good this go around.
It's been bad the whole time, and I think that's the difficult part is that it was bad up until the injury, and now that an injury happened, you're kind of stuck, but you shouldn't be. It's not looking good.
Well, why did he keep the offensive coordinator? I don't understand that. He came in, and his whole thing when he was interviewing for jobs when he got hired by Dallas was, I have this coaching staff. We've been working together for a year. I've got this plan. We know what we're doing.
Library on the walls.
Yeah. And then he goes to Dallas, and he keeps the offensive coordinator. So I'm sure that was part of the package. But, the offense has not been good.
It's been bad. That was bad. And it was bad last year. And it's it's not clicking. Something's not happening here. It's America's team. They should be able to draw the coach. They should be able to do the thing. And really, McCarthy, to be fair, was very Hugh Jackson-esque. He was a name in the cycle. It was the guy you're supposed to get. And it's just been turds. You got to cut bait at some point and hope that it turns around.
So who's the worst?
Out of all of those on the list? Gase.
Hugh. Hugh's the worst. 1-31 with the Browns, and he wasn't good for the Raiders.
I think I almost have PTSD from Hugh because I don't I'm shell shocked when you say it. I really I remember it's like a back in Nam moment, where you're oh yeah, back in. I don't remember
1-31.
I do the pain's 31. There. You say it, and it sounds familiar, but I try not to think about that time.
There were coolers of Bud Light locked up with chains in Cleveland waiting for them to win so that they could unlock them and pass out free beer.
Wasn't that the year we tied week 1, right? Was that one that everyone was do we unlock the fridge or not? Is that count as a win? Is that not a win? And that's how bad it was.
Hugh has to be the worst. He's the worst.
I think he has to be the worst. You're right. I was dead wrong on that one.
That was an ugly one.
I do want to talk a little bit about baseball before we head out of here. Just kind of an update. There's not a lot of day-to-day stuff that's changing, but we're going to be talking a little more baseball in the next couple pods because right now it's a tight race. Guardians are up 2.5 games. It could be 3.5 games by the time we're listening to this. They just won again tonight against the Angels. They're up 4.5 on the Twins, 5.5 again, just depending on what shakes out this evening. But this Angels series is a really big one. They're going to go through. It's a quick series with the Angels. They've got a makeup game with the White Sox, and then they are on a stretch against the Twins and White Sox. It's going to be 9 games in a row over the next week and a half, where it is nonstop important games to win. One of my buddies that I work with listens to this podcast. He's starting to get into some sports, especially baseball here. And he's so at the end of this 9-game stretch, how many of them do they have to win? And I said, they have to win all of them. And he's no, but seriously. And I was they have to win. Realistically, we have to win half of these games. We cannot come out of the end of the weekend without having won half of the games that we're about to go into. And if we do, we'd basically float right where we're at. If we don't, we're going to possibly drop behind, but we have a chance to build. It's here.
Yeah. White Sox and Twins are going to play each other, so we can hope that they beat up on each other a little bit. And I think when we did our very first pod, we kind of predicted where the Guardians were going to land. And I said the team I was most scared of at that point was the White Sox. I think they were about 8 games back, and the Twins were much closer to us. But I felt with their schedule, they had the biggest chance to catch us. And I think they're going to be the closest one. Now, the advantage is we've got a lot of home games. We have a lot of home games. So all you Cleveland fans, get out there to the stadium. But we need every win that we can get, like you said. And I think with the lead we have and the amount of home games, I think we hold on. Because if we don't hold the division, we don't make playoffs. We are not a wild card team.
No.
It's just not going to be that way.
No, that was my last little bullet point here. Was I have that bet going where I thought, we make it, but I thought possibly as a wild card team. And the only reason I said that is I thought possibly the Twins, were going to push on us a little bit. It's been a more interesting race than that, kind of the three-headed monster here. So we're not a wild card team, barring some crazy run here, and at that point we'll probably win the division anyway. So
right,
it's going to be a fun stretch. I think we come out of the next 10 days in a much more interesting place of knowing where this team's at, where it's going. Bieber looks good, has looked good a lot lately. Clase with another save tonight. He's doing really well. He had just his first blown save the other night.
Tell me, I almost added this to the did you see that, but did you see that they had to get the scalp massage check by the umpire? Carcinogenic they checked him for foreign substance.
Oh, they've been checking on everybody lately.
Yeah,
that's the type of fire he's throwing though. He really is walking out there just throwing heat nonstop. The guy's he's on a whole different level.
Yeah. Yeah, so I don't know. I like where the Guardians are. I think they're going to make a run. I think they're going to hold on to it. And it's been a fun season. I like what they've done. This could be a really fun October. What about, are you rooting for Pujols to get to 700?
This is how bad it is for national baseball. It's like I've been watching it, but mostly just on Twitter. And if it happens, if it happened and nobody would tweet about it, I would just never know. I would never know that it ever happened. I'm not watching box scores of every other team every night. I don't really see it. I did see where it hit one of the balls from the other night. He let the girl keep it, and he's like, it's going to mean more to you than it ever did to me. He's a cool dude. I hope he gets everything that he's looking for here. I hope he gets to 700.
Now, I'm an old man. How old were you when Sosa and McGuire were going at it for the home run record?
I should get my little action figures out. My parents got me, but I have a Sosa and McGuire action figures. I was a small child.
It was insane. I was in high school, and literally, it's first, as soon as I got home, you're checking the newspaper, you're watching TV. Every night at 11 o'clock, you're on Baseball Tonight to see if they hit a home run. They are live cutting in to every programming every time one of those two guys got up. I mean, it was insane. And now baseball is the third or fourth best sport. I mean, it might not even be as good as Survivor or Real World Road Rule Challenge. It's just not. It doesn't draw anyone anymore except regionally.
No, and we were texting about the rule changes that got passed this week that are going into effect next season, if I read that correctly. And they're implementing a game clock, a pitch clock, which is, awesome. And there's no shift. You have to have two players on each side of second base with their feet in the dirt, which is awesome again. And, they're trying different things. It's just the bases are going to be bigger for whatever, that's going to do. That'll be interesting, I guess. But it all feels like too little too late, man. It's the draw is gone. It's missing something. And I don't know what that something is. It's almost like the stadiums are too large for the sport. It's I think the same thing with the WNBA sometimes where it's that Las Vegas stadium that holds 10,000 people. They show videos of that place packed all the way out. And it's that's the ticket, you want not a giant stadium that's empty, but a small one that's packed. And baseball seems like it's heading that direction, sadly.
Yeah, I don't know. It just needs more action, and I'm not saying it needs to be faster. It just needs more action, less strikeouts, less home runs, and home runs are fun. I mean, it's awesome, but at the same time, I would like to see everyone moving. There's a strategy of the game about, hey, where do I go if the ball's hit to me? What's this going to look like? I mean, that we miss that at the major league level, it's just strikeout, home run. That's it. There's very few stealing anymore. There's very little hit and run. Second. I can't remember the last time. Yeah, I can't remember the last time I saw a hit and run.
I like it.
I don't know.
I want a guy on second at the beginning of every inning. You put the last guy that got out on second, and it changes the game of baseball immediately.
That's not even baseball. Playing chess. That's like now. Arena. Yeah, baseball, it's like arena football, baseball.
What do you think they said when they added the 3-point line? They're like, it's not even basketball. Now there's going to be a whole extra half a point for like some distance, and it's a whole different thing. It's a different thing, but it might just save it.
Yeah, I don't know. If anything, I think you lower.
Not the hero you want.
Yeah, I want like lower mound. You said higher fences.
Higher fences,
kind of fun.
I think not even with fences, but what if you just put up nets with like a line on it, and you're like, it has to hit above the line to be the home run. If not, it's dropping. And it's not a home run. It's like that's how high this thing goes. I don't know. We can't save baseball. Baseball can't save itself. There's no.
Yeah, it was. When was the Cleveland? When were they in the playoffs for the 1-game playoff? Was that 2 years ago? 3 years ago?
2 years sounds right.
I didn't follow the team at all, and I'm sports nut. I turned on the playoff game and literally turned it off because I was so bored.
That's rough. It feels like it's very. It's almost like if you've ever watched a YouTube vlog series where you have to know the team and the family that you're watching for it to matter, or it's just a really boring video of some people driving around in a car. That is Major League Baseball. It is the vlog channel that you don't want to admit that you're subscribed to on YouTube. It's boring for everyone but you unless you follow it every day.
Yep. Okay, so I think the Guardians are going to be tough out. I like where they're headed. I loved our little NFL talk, man. It's good to talk some NFL this week.
Yeah, heck yeah. Back to the dual screens. We might have some people on soon again, but for now we're just chatting it up old school. There's a lot coming up again. Week 2, NFL football, it's already here. We're going to be rolling some more NFL stuff. We'll stay on top of the Guardians stuff here, and world moves quick, so 3 or 4 days from now, who knows what headlines we might be seeing. But
that's right.
Anything else before we sign off?
No, buddy. We'll catch up on Thursday with some more Did You See That, and we'll load everybody in.
Heck yeah. Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you here soon. Have a good night. Goodbye.
All right. So you think we have no quarterbacks? Okay.
Because both of those quarterbacks are the worst.
Okay.
No one's on the Packers or that team.
All right. Is there anything else you want to say about Brandon Weeden?
He's a bad football player.
Okay.